Mamas. I'm just in the midst of getting all this set up. Hey to Gucci Mamas too. Now that's officially going. As you can see, I have a small person crawling all over me while I'm attempting to talk to you guys, so bear with me. I'm just trying to get this. Hey, you need to relax. Today we're going to be talking about, hey Bo Celtic, hey Retro and me, we're going to be talking about color magic, talking about the color blue today. We're going to be talking about blue in history and blue and being used in spells and rituals and how you can incorporate it and what it means and all sorts of fun things like that. We're just going to give it a few minutes for people to arrive, plus for me to finish getting myself set up here. I just want to pull up an extra. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to have you on a boob. Let me see if I can adjust Instagram a little bit so I guess it doesn't really matter. There we go. So you're welcome, everybody on Instagram who can see everything from here down. Maybe it'll help people stay when they come on. Ecstatic Arts. Just opening up a second screen on Facebook because sometimes only one screen or another will actually show me your comments, and I want to be able to see you guys. Let me see if I can adjust. Excellent. All right. Now I can see everyone. Glad we're here. All right. Now let's hop into our pre-show now that everything's actually all set up. So thank you for your patience. So today I want to talk in our pre-show a little bit about using water magic because obviously the color blue is associated with water. So obviously water is one of the four elements, commonly air, fire, water, and earth, in order from east up to north again. And when we are using the color, or when we're using water in our work, it's usually represented by two main tools on the altar, and that is the chalice and the water dish, because usually there's a water dish and a salt dish. So when we use the water dish in ritual regularly to create salted water in order to cleanse the ritual space, or do something called asperging, which is a combination of salt with the water, and what was I going to say? It's used for cleansing. Oh yeah, so that combines the elements of earth and water, so not just water, but that's how water gets used. Water, and I didn't write it in here, but water is sometimes also used in drawing down of the moon rituals, to kind of draw the essence of the moon or the goddess into the water and then drink it. That's another thing that is sometimes done. And then, of course, water can also be used to cleanse your body and cleanse your tools or cleanse your crystals or your jewelry or what have you, obviously depending on the material that it's made out of. But another, it's common when you use water alone as opposed to salt water that you use running water or frozen water, rarely just plain old water, of course. And typically it is ideally running water from a natural source. Think like a stream or a brook or a river, so on and so forth. For anybody who's joining me either live or joining me after the fact, please be sure to throw a hashtag live or a hashtag replay into the comments. It helps other folks find us, and definitely the more the merrier, so please feel free to do hashtag live. But cool running water. So one of the most wonderful things that you can do in the summertime, you see this spirit baby foot, you can do in the summertime is going to a natural body of water and just standing in it and letting the current wash over you, which is a wonderful way to just cleanse yourself, or let Mother Nature cleanse you, I should say, with the element of water too. And then I mentioned freezing or using frozen water earlier. So frozen water is really great because you can actually use it in different spells. Let's say, for example, that you managed to freeze a dollar bill with ice and you kept it in your freezer. The idea being that you're attracting or at least holding money to, in your home within the self, so that way you're not spending it. And there are other ways you could use it too. You could also use freezing as a way to cleanse objects or items too. The idea being that it freezes the energy and it just falls off. Hey, Facebook, I see I've got two folks there. I don't know who you are, so please feel free to throw a hashtag live in the comments so I can see you and I can say hi back. We're just talking about using water in your magic real quick as our pre-show before we hop into talking about actually the color blue, which is what we're all here for today. As you can see, I dressed for you, minus this very exposed part down here that most of you can't see. So the other thing you can do with water magic is incorporate it in your daily routine again, for cleansing and purification. Every day you can take water and you can infuse it with blessings, or you can even use moon water, which Just as a real quick primer on moon water, if you're not familiar for some reason, the way moon water is made is you take water, usually tap water. If you have hey Rachel, glad you're here. When you get somewhere, please feel free to put a hashtag live in the comments so everyone knows you're here. It'll help other folks find us. What was I saying? Moon water. So the most common way that people make moon water is they take natural water, ideally either from a tap if you've got a well, or you could collect water from the lake. But obviously, in the absence of any of those choices, you can legitimately just use tap water. That's okay too. And put it out at overnight on the night of the full moon. And the idea is that the moonlight actually charges it, and most witches believe that water charged in that way has special powers. And then another really interesting type of water that people will use. Hey, Spiritual Journey of B, we are here talking about color magic, talking about the color blue today. And I'm just doing a little bit of my pre-show while we wait for folks to show up. And I'm just about to wrap up. We're talking about ways that we can use water magic, which is, of course, relates to the color blue. I was talking about Florida water. So Florida water is actually really commonly used in a lot of Afro-Caribbean traditions and like Santeria, sort of in the way that a lot of modern pagans use sage and herbs for cleansing. All right, let's put that away if you're all done. Here, does everyone see? Here's the cute baby. So Florida water is a really cool thing that you can incorporate into your routine really easily too, and especially every day. Every day you kind of take the water. You can, again, use blessed water or Florida water or moon water. Wash your third eye, wash your hands, wash the nape of your neck. Interestingly, in Santeria, they generally believe that there are two main ways that energy, generally speaking, bad energy, enters the body, and that's through the soles of the feet or the back of the neck, which in Indian tradition, in the chakra system, is actually where the back of the third eye is located. So I definitely think that's an interesting parallel. So those are good places to regularly make a habit of cleansing. And generally, the chakra that is in the back is usually about reception of energy, and the chakra in the front is about the projection of energy. So by doing it in the back of the neck, the idea is that you're keeping things from coming in. So that's some ways that you can incorporate water into your magical practice. So that said, let us hop into the history and the magic of the color blue. So I knew this thing already, actually, but in the midst of doing my research for this, I kind of re-remembered it. That the color blue is actually a relatively, hey, Bakugo Katsuki, we're talking about color magic and the color blue today. And one cool thing I realized or remembered about color blue when I was getting ready and prepared for this live today is that the color blue is actually a relatively recent, I don't want to say creation because that's not 100% true, but realization, perhaps. So in ancient literature and storytelling, the color blue actually didn't exist. It was never mentioned by name in any literature and any historical texts anywhere until about 6,000 years ago. And in some ancient Greek writing where they were talking about the ocean, which of course is water, which we generally describe as blue, they would use terms like calling it wine dark, which, we think of wine, we think of like purple, like that makes no sense. But back then there was no name or word for the color blue. And interestingly, there was actually an ancient Nambian tribe that they did a study on, and this particular tribe was relevant to the study because they did not have separate words for the color blue and the color green. So they showed these people, a series of squares, 11 of which were green and one was blue. The tribe could not differentiate one from the other. To them, they were all one and the same. So it seems that because there was no word for the color blue, early humans didn't even notice it, and I read something too about studies of children who had never been exposed to the idea of the color blue. And when they were asked what color the sky was, they would say, oh, it's pale colored or it's white. Again, there was no word, there was no concept of what blue even was. I know that kind of similar to this, I remember either hearing this parable or maybe it's a true story, probably is a true story, of when, the Europeans first arrived on the Mayflower, coming up to shore. They were on these giant ships and boats that had sails. And when they first arrived, the indigenous people would say, oh, well, they're clouds. These big storm clouds are approaching because they were looking at these big sails and didn't really know what they were. So it's the same kind of idea, but we're talking about a color. So that's kind of a cool story about blue. It's kind of newish, and part of why they probably never bothered to give it a special name is because blue almost never appears in nature. We don't see it in cave paintings either. Hey, Sweet Sally Soaps, we're here talking about color magic and the color blue today. Talking about how blue actually didn't really exist as a concept or a word until about 6,000 years ago. But blue almost never appears in nature, very, very, very rarely. Even the blue flowers that we commonly think of today are mostly created or modified in order to exhibit that color. And blueberries, we think of blueberries because they have the word blue in them, but they're actually mostly purple. And blue eyes are one of the rarest colors out there. Neither me or this guy have blue eyes, that's for sure, as you can tell. So they didn't bother to have a word for it. Why should they? It wasn't a big enough part of their life for them to pay any attention to it. So it wasn't until, like I said, about 6,000 years that the word blue even came into existence, which was because they started making blue pigments and blue dyes. And those first pigments were created using lapis or lapis lazuli, which is a mineral that originally was discovered in Afghanistan, actually. And it very, very quickly, both the stone and the dye became very, very popular. But it was very rare and difficult to make because it was only able to be created from that one specific mineral at the time. You cannot touch the computer, Mother. I have nothing to give you right now. Ooh, I know. Here, have a ball. Have a ball. Have a ball. Here we go. Okay. So anyway, that said, driving over a bridge with blue water, Rachel says, excellent. So see, it's kind of an interesting thought experiment. Be if you didn't know the word blue, what color would you call it? I would probably say probably gray if I didn't know any better. But anyway, that said, the first pigments from Afghanistan made of lapis, very rare, difficult to make, so they were expensive. So only the royalty and people who were very wealthy could even afford to purchase it. But after it finally became affordable and very widespread, that was when the word blue finally became spread and used and created ultimately in all different languages. But in modern history, after once blue was created, so to speak, blue suddenly became made the color of the Virgin Mary's robe in Catholicism, which is relevant because it's a big part of how it actually acquired a lot of the associations that we pin with the color blue today. And specifically, the shade that Mary's robe was often depicted as was navy blue. So when our militaries were, creating all of their uniforms, frequently they would choose the color navy because it became associated with Mother Mary and innocence and trustworthiness and peace and nurturing. So the idea was that that color would put people at ease when they were seeing these folks that were in the military. Hey, Jewel Tara, we are talking about color magic, talking about the color blue today, talking about the color navy blue in particular and how it was kind of deemed as the official color of the robe of Mother Mary, which then allowed it, which is why the military started using it. And as the military started using it to help instill a sense of trust with the civilians they were working with, it then also became associated with authority, especially that particular shade of navy blue. And at that point, when the dark blue really became associated with authority, I feel like the population and people in general sort of automatically assigned the original associations of blue with a lot of lighter shades like robin's egg and sky blue and so on and so forth. And now, interestingly, despite the fact that blue, like I said, is actually a really somewhat rare and unusual color, statistically speaking, and I learned this when I was researching for one of my very first color magic videos that I did, blue is the #1 favorite color pretty much across the board in the entire country of the United States. Can't speak for other countries, especially among men. But overall, #1 color, which I thought was really interesting, especially so because oftentimes in these videos I will poll people to ask them what color they want me to do next. And nobody asked for blue. I decided to do blue next because nobody had any suggestions about the color blue. Talking about its association to magic. And the first of which I'm talking about here is peace. And I wonder to ourselves, why is it associated with peace? Well, I think probably first and foremost because of its association. If you're talking about me, thanks. But I think that associated with peace because of its original association with Mother Mary and the idea of her being nurturing and peaceful and helping people to feel a sense of peace. Another thing that blue is associated with is protection and cleanliness, and I think that's probably due to its association with water. And I kind of wrote as a little note for myself here, think of like when you are, let's say, in a pool, because that's the place where people are most likely to do this, and you decide to go underwater and you hold your breath and you just sit there for a second. I think we all did that as a kid because it was really fun, but don't you remember how peaceful it felt? That's what I think of when I think of the idea of like the peace of water, the peace of the color blue. And then, of course, the clear blue sky, also staring up at the sky on a summer day, also very, very peaceful. I hope people are enjoying looking at the back of your head, little man. According to my thing, Dinosaur, there are 2 people in here. I don't know who they are, but I will wave at everybody. It shows I haven't done that yet. So let's see. Oh, and of course, protection. To use the color blue in your magic, a thing you can do is you can wear blue or wear a blue cloak for protection, or even a shirt. Let's say that you're going to an interview or you're going to court for something. Wearing blue can be a way to use the magic of the color blue to help protect you. Another association for the color blue is clarity, wisdom, and the truth. So I don't want to dive too much into it because I know at some point I'm definitely going to do a little bit of a deep dive on the chakras. But the color blue is also associated, especially with the throat chakra, which is where all those things are also associated with. Talking to anybody who is here, Dinosaur. This is a live stream, so it's educational. And then, of course, people can always watch it on the replay. And if you're watching it on the replay, somebody after the fact, please feel free to throw a hashtag live in the comments so people can help find us more. And if you're just joining us for whatever reason, please throw a hashtag live also because it will help other folks find us. So associated with the throat chakra, which is, again, itself associated with creativity and clarity and truth and expression. Either not necessarily just speaking like I'm doing now, but it could also be singing or creating and making art or doing anything that you feel is creative for you. For like I said, I'm really obviously into visual arts. That's kind of what my business is all about. But my husband, for example, is super not artistic, and his way of being creative and expressing himself is through his cooking, and that is totally valid too. So lots of different things can be considered creative. This is absolutely something we can have a conversation about, especially if it's about the subject matter. So if you have a question, feel free to throw it into the comments. I would love to hear it. And I would love to, help with whatever I can. So one way you can tap into the color blue is if you wear like a blue, this is not stone, of course, this is glass, but wearing a blue stone around your neck. One of my favorites, which I sadly don't have a piece to show you. I was trying to look for it as I was preparing for this today, and I don't have one somehow, but it's blue lace agate. It's a pale blue stone that has like really pretty striations in it. Really great for communication and clarity. So wearing one around your neck, especially if you feel like you have a difficult time expressing yourself clearly, can be a great way to use the color magic for blue also. Additionally, blue is associated with harmony. It is also associated with wisdom and spirituality. And I have a feeling that is related to its association with royalty and how unnatural the color blue is in nature. We don't see it in nature like I was saying earlier. So unnaturalness is then associated with being otherworldly, which then becomes associated with spiritual and divine wisdom. Diagar says, how do you know what color or stones you need? This is going to sound like a really weird, waffly, new agey answer, but this is how I feel about that. There's lots of different ways that you can find out what stones work best based on your situation. There are tons of books out there. But honestly, I think one of the best things you can do is just drive to your local crystal store and look at them and see what you feel drawn to. I find that 9 times out of 10, if I go to a store looking for crystals with nothing particular in mind, and pick one out just intuitively based on what I'm drawn to, and then I go home and I look it up and I'm like, holy crap, this stone is exactly what I needed right now. And I think that that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. I only like dark ones. Dark stones are usually associated with grounding, with the earth, and protection, especially psychic protection. So dark stones usually, like hematite, obsidian, onyx, jet, dravite, which is brown tourmaline, which is one I really, really like. I think it's really pretty. I have a piece, but not here, unfortunately, so I can't show it to you. But whatever you're drawn to is, in my opinion, likely what you need, and that's okay too. That's especially okay. There's a really great book out there called, I don't have it with me either. It's called, yeah, I believe it's actually called The Correspondence Book, and it's published by Llewellyn, which is a really common pagan publisher. And it's this giant volume that is, thank you. I've been studying this since 2004-ish, all of these things in various realms of knowledge. But the correspondence book published by Llewellyn, it's really great because you can look up what you, look things up by your intention. So, if you're like, I really want to buy a stone for doing better at school, you could look up education or learning or wisdom as an intention, and it will give you a list of all the things that would correspond to that, which is really, really helpful. So I definitely think that's worth any witch or magical person having in their kind of library, because it's really, really helpful. But that said, that's actually everything I had for the color blue. So now what I want to do while we're wrapping up and see if anybody has any more questions, I'm going to show you some really cool blue things that I had in my shop in case anybody's interested. If you want to know more about the items, feel free to drop a comment or whatever in the comments below. First thing I will show you is, I have a few things here. So these are my Web of Word grill turners. I don't really random, right? So I actually made these for Father's Day. Just kind of showing I've got Instagram and YouTube and Facebook all happening at the same time. So it says on here, turn the wheel of fate. 2004, I was 19. I just graduated high school. So this says turn the wheel of fate, and it has the symbol for the Web of Word on it, and it's all different shades of blue with lightning on it. These are officially actually not listed in my shop right now. They are also coated with a heat-resistant spray, so that if you're using around high heat on a grill, as it's intended for, it will not melt away the design that I painted on it. These are not in my shop right now because they're officially part of the collection that's not online right now. So if you're interested, drop a comment below. And then I have a few different painted pendants. So I do lots of little miniature painting and what have you. Hold on, we're going to feed the baby again because he is super cranky and maybe teething. So let's see. The first one I want to show you, this is a hand-painted pendant here. This symbol is called a Valnuk. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it is symbolic of the Norse god Odin. And the color blue is also associated with him because of his association with wisdom. He's considered to be a Norse god of wisdom. So this has blue and a few other colors too, but I have two different varieties of this one. The other one doesn't have dots, just has colors. So there's that one. I also have, this is a hand-painted pendant of Ukko's axe. Ukko is actually a Finnish god of lightning and the sky. This symbol is frequently worn by Finnish pagans to symbolize their belief system. Must have found the pen of youth or something. Oh, I'm lucky I have good skin. It says here, the axe is Ukko's primary weapon. He's often likened to Thor, and it's worn. It just says what I just said, that it's worn by people to represent Finnish faith. And then this here is, I call this my moon bear. So I can't remember how much these pens are off the top of my head. I think that they are 25. This is a moon bear. It says here that in many northern European cultures, the bear was considered sacred. The Finn believed humans actually descended from bears. Bears represent wisdom, interestingly blue, wisdom and introspection and direction. So there's the moon bear. And then this is one of my more recent pieces. This is Canunos. Show everybody Canunos. So Kununos, Dinar, about collaborating. If you want to shoot me a DM after, we can always chat there for sure about whatever you want to talk about. Kununos is often simply referred to as the horned god, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that. And he is Celtic or Gaelic in origin, and he is the god of beasts and wild places. So there he is. And then I have another necklace to show you, but it is not hand painted. This is actually a wire wrap pendant. Do I have the green man still? Rachel says, yes, I do. I don't have it right here with me right now because I was doing blue, but I totally have them in the other room. If you want to, I will send you a message after if you want to pick them because I have two different ones. So the stone pendant I have here, this is labradorite. Labradorite usually has blue flash. This one is more green gold, but I pulled it out anyway. I'm trying to see if I can get the light to show you the flash on it. It's really hard to get it to do. Well, you'll have to take my word for it. Oh, there is actually blue flash on the bottom down here. It's just really hard to show. But you can kind of see how it has a sort of iridescence to it. Labradorite is one of my favorite stones. I absolutely associate it with like new moon, dark goddess energy, associated with intuition and psychic ability, so on and so forth. This piece is, I believe, 75. So if you're interested, like I said, shoot me a comment. And I also have these. So these are, I think that the image of these on Instagram rather is actually one of my most liked images. I'm just trying to get them in my hand because I only have one hand to hold them with. So these are elemental stones. You can see there's one for each element. I know that the one that says air is hard to see because it's yellow, but it looks really clear in person. So the idea is that these are really great to put on altar to represent the four elements. Oh, see on YouTube it looks fine. Especially this one, which is water. Yeah, I'm holding it upside down. Water. So here's the blue one in particular. Let me see if I can show you the air one separately. See if that'll make it easier to see. Oh, there we go. You can see the color if you get close. Here's air and fire and water. I showed you that one already. And finally, earth. It doesn't want to focus because I'm too close, but so these are nice elemental stones. I love these. This particular set actually lives on little man. The baby's trying to get to the wire wraps here. These particular ones actually live on the altar that's in the other room. That's our family altar. So here on Facebook, you can see air. Just, I'm on a delay, so hopefully these are showing up all right. Fire, water, blue, and earth, water, fire. And I love painting these. Fire and air. And then the last thing I want to show you guys. So one thing you may or may not know. Can't see, maybe hold lower. Oh, see, it's showing me some of them now. Now that it's on delay, it's showing me when I showed you. I can see them okay on my screen. Earth didn't show up really good, so here, I'll hold that one up. Here's Earth again. Hopefully you can see that. So, but one thing that you may or may not know, because it's not really officially listed on my website, but I do also do custom wire wrapping. And what makes it custom is that, well, for one, you get to set whatever your price range is, which will obviously influence how complex of a piece you can get. But I had a couple of really pretty blue stones that I thought I would show you. So if anybody is interested in a custom wrap with any of those stones, like I said, feel free to send me a message. The first one I'll show you is not 100% blue. It's another labradorite, but look, it's gigantic. This might not be a great necklace piece because it's so huge, but if you wanted something as like a sun catcher or a hanger, it could be really great for that. So that's what I've done. I used to have two of these. One of them, I actually did that exact thing for one of my tattoo artists. So that was one thing. Then I have this collection of littler stones. There's a sodalite in here. Let's see if I can pull them out. There is a sodalite in here and a piece of blue kyanite. And this is actually a little piece of bismuth, which has a lot of blue in it. So these little 3 pieces are all put together because my thought was at one time to wrap these into a big piece all together, which of course is not necessary if that's not what somebody wants, but that was why they're all together here. Then I have some other individual pieces. These are all blue stones. I have a couple of really beautiful pieces of lapis. So we were talking about lapis earlier. Lapis lazuli is the mineral that was originally used to create blue dye. So this is one piece. It's sort of along, here, I'll hold it back here. It's sort of elongated shape. And I don't know how well anybody can see, but there's a lot of gold flecking in bands here, which is really beautiful. And I just want you to know these pieces I'm showing you are not officially jewelry pieces. I actually prefer wrapping pieces that aren't made for jewelry or tumbled into that shape because I like a challenge, I guess. So there's one. And then I have this other piece of lapis, which is a really cool shape. It's actually like triangular. And there is a little bit less gold in this piece. You can see there's actually a little bit like a line of gold right there, which is sort of neat. But this one you see a lot more of the blue and less of the gold. And then I have a couple pieces of what's called sodalite, which is another common blue stone. So here's a blue sodalite. It's a little bit bigger than that piece that was in the bag. And then this piece of sodalite I picked up because what I really loved about it was that actually, I take it back, this is actually lapis. Makes it even cooler. So I picked up this piece of lapis, because it's actually a lot more, has a ton more white in it than blue or gold. So here you can see it's white, it's got blue specks, and it's probably hard to see on camera, and I'll try to hold it closer so you can see. But up close, you can see, especially on this side, that there's a tiny bit of gold flecking inside the blue. Will we clear up? You can see it a little bit. It's gold in the blue. So there's that. And then finally, the final piece I have, if you are, Rachel says she'll PM me about the triangle too. Absolutely. Please do. I would love to hear from you. And the final piece I'm going to show you, this is actually a crystal of celestite. And I find it very difficult to find celestite crystals. I think I got this at a Gem and Mineral show because I thought I really wanted to wrap it, but it's just been sitting in a bin. These are all stones that I had put aside to wrap. I just haven't done yet. So this is a crystal. It's very pale blue, of course, but this is a celestite crystal, which I love. Celestite. It just has a great energy to it. So if you're interested in a wire wrap, feel free to shoot me a message. And just as a reminder, anybody watching, if you are watching live or on the replay, throw a hashtag live or a hashtag replay in the comments. Helps other folks find us. And then that's all I have for you officially today. But just as a heads up, if you're planning on joining me next week, so I did a poll in my Facebook group, which if you want to join for any reason, important crystal to learn about. I feel like in every type of magic, there's like one particular ingredient in that kind of category that's sort of like a coverall. You can use it for everything. So like in candle magic, you can use a wet candle for anything. If you're doing herbal magic, you can use rosemary for pretty much everything. But in crystal magic, you can use quartz for pretty much everything. So I want to talk about that first. So we'll talk about that next week. So I hope everybody enjoyed. Like I said, hashtag replay if you're watching this after the fact so other folks can find us. And I will see you all next week. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Yeah.